were talking to Coach White the other day. He said that, you know, having a game like James did and some of the other guys, just the confidence that can give them. Is that a thing? Like, you know, is confidence a real thing that can change how guys play?
I mean, I think when you're talking about players who specifically see themselves as guys that should affect the passer and, you know, they're not getting there like they want to, or they may not have the stats they want to, and you finally break through, you hope that they start to come in bunches, and that's just what we hope happens. And, you know, the good thing about our guys is they just kept chopping at it, kept chopping the wood, and, you know, I told them when it does happen, they'll come in bunches. So, you know, they got the right mindset. They keep playing fast, and right now, you know, you can see a little bit more confidence in the group since they play well, and, you know, that's all we're waiting for.
Brendan?
With James specifically, how has this process been for him? I think Coach White alluded that he'd maybe slow down on himself, I guess, that some of the production hadn't been there. What have you said to him to kind of get him through this process to the breakthrough?
Come on, James, you know, James is a veteran guy. You know what I mean? The last 2 years, he's been a third down guy, you know, wasn't an every down guy. So, you know, for him this year, it's just, you know, he looks on social media, you know, he sees all these things that he's not doing this, he's not doing that. And, you know, I just told him to just stay focused on the task at hand, man. And, you know, James done a good job of responding to that. And obviously, you know, these guys, they create a lot of pressure on themselves to go out there and, you know, they evaluate things based off of stats. But, you know, as coaches, you know, I tell the D-line all the time, being disruptive is the same as making plays as long as it, you know, works out for the defense. But, you know, James is coming along and, you know, he's getting used to being an every down player and, you know, he'll be just fine.
Chris?
Jason Jenkins obviously had the injury that limited him in preseason. How much has it hampered him into the season? Do you feel like he's starting to come on? Just where is he at?
Yeah, you know, with Jenk, you know, right now it's just training his eyes, you know, and, you know, with the injury and things, that didn't hold him back. Jenk is one of the hardest workers on the team, and, you know, I'm never worried about his work ethic or, you know, where his mindset is. Right now it's just about the game slowing down for him. You know, he's also another guy who, you know, came here from his previous school, was a high rep rotational player, and now he's just, you know, starting to get his feet wet of, you know, being an every down player, being dependent on every down and, you know, carrying that on his back. So, you know, for him, it's just about the game slowing down for him right now, and it's just something me and him talk about, whether that's extra film, whether that's more reps, but, you know, as he does get more reps, you see him start to play better.
Ira?
Along the same lines, Jaden, you feel like he's starting to kind of be what he can be? Right, and you know Jaden's story, the injuries the past few years, and, you know, right now he's just building confidence. He's another guy who's a hard worker and hasn't let, you know, the injuries in the past, you know, affect what he's doing now. And, you know, the more reps, same thing for him, the more reps, the better he'll get. And, you know, I have a lot of confidence in all of our DNs right now. And, you know, they're all different type of players and they're all starting to come into their own. And, you know, the better they are, the better we are, especially on third down. So you're starting to see those guys. Same with Amari and same with Daryl Desir, that, you know, the more reps they get, you know, the more effective, you know, they'll be.
Coach, you talked about disruptions a minute ago. I'm curious, like, how do you evaluate a guy like Daryl Jackson? He's got 26 tackles, he's got a sack. But you talk about watching film and maybe quantifying disruptions. Do you truly quantify that number? And how do you evaluate a guy who's double teamed a ton?
Right. I think the good thing about D-Jack is right now is that he sees the big picture. Right. He sees guys running free because he's getting double teamed. Right. He's doing a good job just focusing on being the best D-Jack he can. He's not, you know, looking up mock drafts, paying attention to what everyone else is saying about stats and all that. You know what I mean? I played with great players who haven't had their best statistical year, but have completely dominated games. And, you know, as long as teams aren't running up the middle and, you know, if D-Jack get one-on-ones and he's winning them, you know, he'll get everything he won out of this game. And that's all he's focused on right now. He sees the big picture and he understands that, you know, being a big guy in the middle sometimes, you know, it's kind of like the O-line, right? You know, when the offense runs the ball for 300 yards and pass for 300 yards, you know what I mean, the O-line never gets any recognition. So that's the same thing as being a great nose tackle, and that's something he's embraced.
Liam?
The complementary football aspect, we saw it against Wake Forest, you guys got pressure, led to turnovers or stops. How big is that for your D-line's confidence and just overall confidence defensively?
Well, I think, you know, when you finally put together a game like that, you know, we haven't played like that since earlier in the season. And like I said, the guys are just building a lot of confidence right now. And, you know, our previous school, that first year, you know, you had to play complementarily within the defense, right? The DBs and the D-line had to get on the same page, and our guys are starting to mesh and understand how everything works together in Tony's scheme. And you're starting to see DBs come over to the D-line like, hey, make sure you do this because I got to fill off of you when you do that, and vice versa. So the guys are starting to come together, and that's why they went out there and played fast and confident. And it was the most fun we've had since we've been here. And hats off to Coach Norvell, because he gets our guys ready every single day, and they're just feeding off of him. So that team that you seen on Saturday, that was a product of coach's energy all week.
Brendan?
You mentioned guys having fun. I'm curious, like, as from your perspective as a coach, as a player who's lived the ups and downs of football, how did the guys do during that 4-game skid, and then to come out of it and be able to have fun, play hard? What did that mean?
Well, the easiest way to have fun is when you play for something bigger than yourself. And I think all the guys had that mentality. They just wanted to go out and have fun, right? The same way they compete in practice, the same way they went and compete on Saturday, right? And Coach always says, when we compete in practice, someone wins, someone loses, right? But we always focus on the next step. But in practice, guys are competitive, right? Because they share the same locker room, and they're in there talking crap to each other, and they're competing every day. And they just, honestly, they took that same approach and did it on Saturday, and they were out there competing, right? They're out, they're on the sideline jawing at each other, having a good time. The D-line was having a great time. Linebackers coming down there talking to us, DBs. It was a great environment on that sideline, man. And Coach did a great job getting this team ready. And, I feel that momentum starting to build again.
Chris?
Kevin Wynn's a young man who, brings a lot to the table. What has he done well as he's gotten an opportunity to play, and what do you think his next step
Well,
is?
the best thing always for young guys to throw them in the fire, right? And, him coming off an injury, coming back from that, him being a bigger guy and being in the middle when things happening so fast, the more reps he gets, the better he'll get. And you see flashes of it in practice with him being able to show his foot quickness, for his size. He's a smart football player, and he's one of the strongest guys on the team. So, I'm excited about where he's headed, and he understands that, being a young guy, being a nose tackle, at Florida State with D-Jack leaving and passing the torch on to him, he's embraced that, and he's excited about it. And, he's a guy, same thing. A lot of reps, the better he'll get, and he's always asking questions. He does all the extra, and he's going to be a great player here.
Ira?
Back before, like when you played, or back before the transfer portal, if you had young players at your position or your group, you would look ahead to the future a little bit, even during the season, think about, okay, what's this guy gonna look like? But now, with the way rosters are, can you even spend any time thinking about that? And how excited are you about the group of guys you have that could come back?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really worried about it. Our freshmen have the right mindset, and we recruited the right guys, and they believe in development, right? And they're not going to run and look for, they don't believe the grass is green on the other side. They love to come to work every single day. And we have a great room. Those guys love being around each other. We have great camaraderie in the room. And, those guys, talk about it all the time. They talk about, Juju and the Twins talk about, hey, in 2 years, we want to be the first group to have 3 first-round picks on the D-line. Amari, and they talk about those things. So, when the culture is right, it starts with the head coach, and all that is right. The guys believe in development, and they believe in the steps that it takes. And those guys look forward to when D-Jack leave, and when Dan leave, to when James leave, to making it their own and continuing on the tradition of great D linemen here. And they've done a great job recruiting for us. Being hosts and those type of things. So I believe in the young group in our room, and I believe in the development of it. And those guys believe in it as well.
We'll do one more, Liam.
When you look at Clemson, how can these guys take what they did against Wake Forest on Saturday, stack it up, and do it again against Clemson?
Well, I think for our guys, it's just to focus on Florida State, right? Focus on Florida State, do what we do, right? Play hard as hell, right? Try to take the ball off of them and affect the quarterback on third down, right? Clemson has an explosive offense. We know what they're capable of, but we don't play logos. We don't care what they do on the other side. We're going to focus on what we do, have our eyes right, and play harder than the other team, and we'll get everything we want. And that's what our coach wants us to do, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it one play at a time. And right now, we're just focusing on defense, playing hard as hell, and that's what we're going to do.